Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be focusing on dividing a polynomial by a binomial. We're going to show that mastery in class by scoring at least an 80% on an exit ticket. Hopefully you have the notes in front of you. If you don't, take out a sheet of paper and we can get you a fresh set tomorrow. Now, when it comes to dividing, the first thing we want to do is factor our quadratic equation. Exactly what we've been doing this whole unit. Use your ABCs, use the slide method, then set up your division. We want to cancel out anything that's common, and then whatever's left is our answer. So if I look at the first problem, I have x squared minus x minus 20, all divided by x minus 5. Well, the top is my quadratic, so off to the side over here, I'm going to rewrite it, and I want to factor it. Well, if I do a is 1, b is negative 1, c is negative 20. Well, AC tells me we're going to subtract, but it's a positive 20. Well, I know 10 minus 2 is 8, 5 minus 4 is 1, and 20 minus 1 is 19. So I'm going to use my 5 and my 4. I'm going to have x squared plus 4x minus 5x minus 20. That way I still get my negative 1x out. I'm going to group them together, pull out an x, and I'm going to pull out a negative 5 here so that my parentheses still match. So my final answer becomes x plus 4 and x minus 5. Now remember, that's just the factored form of my quadratic. So I'm going to turn my top into x plus 4 and x minus 5, and the bottom is x minus 5. Think of the bottom as being grouped together. So in this case, both x minus 5 and x minus 5 are the same. Because those are the same, it's like dividing by the same number and same variable, so we're going to get an answer of 1. Well, 1 times that means our answer is just x plus 4. That's your final answer to your division. Now, if we look at something like example 3. Well, if I look, we've always talked about doing ax squared plus bx plus c. So I want to rearrange it. I'm going to change it, and it's going to become negative 5x squared minus 8x plus 4. In this case, we still don't have a GCF, so I'm going to do my ABCs. A is negative 5, B is negative 8, and C is 4. Well, A times C is going to be negative, so that tells me I'm going to subtract. I need to get to 20 again. I have 10 minus 2, which gives me 8. 5 minus 4 equals 1. And 20 minus 1 is 19. Well, I need a negative 8, so I am going to use the 10 and the 2. However, instead of saying 10 minus 2, we're going to flip it and do 2 minus 10, so we get our negative 8. Well, now I have negative 5x squared minus 10x plus 2x plus 4. If I group them together, I pull out a negative 5. We have x squared plus 2. Oh, and I apologize. We're also going to pull out, it's going to be a negative 5x, so we're left with x plus 2. In the second, we're going to pull out a positive 2, and I'm left with x plus 2. My parentheses are the same, so now I have x plus 2, and I have negative 5x plus 2. Again, that's the factored form of our quadratic, so we're going to take it, and that's going to become my numerator, x plus 2 and negative 5x plus 2. My denominator, just like my numerator, I'm going to rearrange it, so I'm going to put negative 5x first plus 2. Again, we still want it descending order. Well, now, if I look, I have a negative 5x plus 2 on the top and a negative 5x plus 2 on the bottom. Those two are going to cancel each other out, and I'm left with x plus 2. That becomes my final answer to my division problem. That is my quotient. Example 2. Again, it's not in descending order, so we're going to rearrange it. We're going to make it negative x squared minus 7x plus 8. I don't have a GCF, so my A becomes negative 1, B is negative 7, and C is positive 8. Well, AC is negative, so I have to subtract. and it multiplies to 8. So I have 8 and 1, which give me 7, and I have 4 and 4. Oh, 4 and 2, I was adding there, and I get a 2. So I have to use 8 and 1, but again, I want a negative 7, so instead of saying 8 minus 1, I'm going to say negative x squared plus 8x. Ooh, and I just said not to do that. Minus 8x plus 1x plus 8. Again, when we combined our like terms, make sure they add up to the same b value. So from here, the first equation, I'm going to pull out a negative 1x, just so I can keep what's inside my parentheses positive. I'm left with x plus 8. Well, if you notice, there's nothing I can pull out of the second. So I'm going to put a plus 1 here, because 1 times anything is still that number. So when we bring it down, now I have x plus 8, and I have negative 1x plus 1. Make sure your answer is always that binomial. If you can't pull a number out, pull a 1 out. 1 divided by, or any number divided by 1 gives you that number. So now, this is the factored form of my numerator. We have x plus 8 and negative 1x plus 1. My denominator is in descending form, so we're going to leave it the same. From here, we notice we have an x plus 8 and an x plus 8. So my final answer is negative 1x plus 1. And again, I know it's not the prettiest answers, but we like it in descending order, so put that negative 1x first. Ooh, and I apologize. If we look, I'm going to turn this into a division problem just so it looks like the other problems we've done. Well, now if we notice, we're in descending order. So now I'm going to work on factoring my quadratic. I have no common factor, so a is 3, b is 11, and c is negative 20. Well, ac is negative, so I need to subtract, and I'm going to have to multiply up to 60. Well, I have 60 minus 1, which gives me 59. I have 30 minus 2, which gives me 28. I have 20 minus 3, which gives me 17. I have 15 minus 4. Oh, and there we have our 11. So we can stop. I have a positive 11, and b is positive 11, so it's going to stay in that order. It becomes 3r squared plus 15r minus 4r minus 20. Still going to group it. I'm going to pull out a 3r from the first one. I'm left with r plus 5. And I'm going to pull out a negative 4 from the second one, which leaves me r plus 5. And this goes back to a lot of you in class have asked about, well, when do I know when to pull out a positive or negative? If we were to pull out a positive 4 there, we'd be left with negative r minus 5. And we notice that parenthesis doesn't match the other one, so we can't do it in there. We still need both of our parentheses to match. So now we have r plus 5 and 3r minus 4. Well, we have to remember that goes back to our original, and that's our factored form of our numerator. Goes back to our factored form of our numerator, and we now have on top, and we have r plus 5 on the bottom. If we notice, we have r plus 5 and r plus 5, leaving my final answer as 3r minus 4. If you notice with all of our answers, they are always a factor of our quadratic. So if you get a quadratic that doesn't factor nicely as prime, double check, and also make sure that you're double checking that one factor cancels out either with the numerator or denominator. Please bring your notes and any questions you have to class tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you then.